Please ensure you reference a page or paragraph number and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. When invited to speak, please ensure you turn on your microphone. Now may I ask officers taking part in the meeting to introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Lee, please.
Good evening, members. I'm Matthew Lee, Lead Specialist Place and Chief Plan Officer at Morden District Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Matthews?
Good evening, Chairman. Yes, I'm Catherine Matthews, Specialist in Development Management. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marden, Miss or Mrs. I do apologise if I get those the wrong way around. Please correct me if you'd like to.
Okay. Good evening, members. I'm Sophie Marden and I'm a caseworker for Development Management.
Thank you. And Ms. Fuller.
Good evening, members. My name's Katie Fuller. I'm clerk to this evening's committee.
Thank you. Are there any other officers present who are part of this meeting as distinct from background support? OK, I'll take that as a no. Before I call on the clerk to take the roll call of committee members, I'll ask those councillors who are in attendance to introduce themselves, please. Councillor Morris, I know, is here.
Good evening, everybody. Councillor Morris in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'm not seeing anyone else. OK, I think we'll move on. So, Mrs. Fuller, can you please carry out the roll call of members to confirm those in attendance? Thank you.
Yes, Chairman. Members, I'll call your name. Please could you indicate if you are present? Starting with Councillor Durham, please.
I'm present.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Fleming.
Present, Katie, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvis.
Evening, Katie, Chairman, members.
Thank you. Councillor Keys.
Good evening, Katie, Chairman, members.
Thank you. Councillor Morley.
Good evening, everyone present.
Thank you. Councillor Fiddle. No. Councillor Mrs. Thompson.
Oh, I'm here, thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you. Councillor Miss White.
Thank you, I'm here.
Thank you. That's
right.
all, Chair.
Apparently there was, I'm sorry, there was an issue apparently with the sound. It is only housekeeping, so some of the intro didn't go out. I'm actually going to carry on because the warnings, just in case anyone did miss the warnings about recording members of the public, we actually don't have any present in the meeting, so I don't think that's an issue. I hope you all agree, members. I'll go through it all again if you'd like me to. No, I didn't think so, thank you. Right, so the next thing is apologies for absence, please, Mrs. Fuller.
Yes, Chairman, we've received apologies from Councillor Siddle.
Thank you. Item 3 is the minutes from the 10th of February. It's recommended the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of February, found on pages 7 to 16, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. If you wish to second that motion, please unmute your microphone and state your name now.
Seconded, Councillor Fleming.
Thank you. Right, if any member wishes to raise any matter of accuracy, please use the hands up function to indicate. Oh, we did, just to note, we did go through the recording again and the minutes were correct in the order of the matter that Councillor Siddle raised, because Councillor Durham had in fact spoken very briefly earlier on. But, you know, this isn't Hansard, so we don't take it down verbatim. Right, so the next thing, sorry, no, I haven't done that. Can we do that by assent, members? Anybody disagree? Yeah, everybody's happy. Thank you very much. 4 is declarations of interest to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other pecuniary interests or non-pecuniary interests relating to items of business on the agenda having regard to paragraph 628 inclusive of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded they're also required to disclose any such interests as soon as they become aware should the need arise throughout the meeting. If any member has an interest to declare, please use the hands up function now to indicate, and I will invite you to speak. Councillor Durham.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Usual declaration as a member of Essex County Council, who are statutory consultees in respect to some elements of planning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. No one else? Thank you. In that case, we move on to our first planning application, which is item 5, the Essex Wildlife Trust Nature Reserve Blue House Farm, which is in North Fambridge. Right, I'm going to ask the officer to present the item, and members, just a reminder, if you wish to speak, please make this known using the hands function. Okay, thank you for the message, Councillor Durham. I'll get back to that. Yes, I think we're on Ms. Matthews, please, if you would be so kind to give us the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. Presentation. Apologies for the delay. Is that available for everyone to see?
I can see that, thank you. I hope everyone else can.
Okay. Okay, so this is an application for the construction of an earth bund, some foot drain stitches, 12 shallow scrapes, and the breaking up of land drains and the construction of a boarded sluice. This is the Essex Wildlife Trust Nature Reserve, Blue House Farm Chase in North Fambridge. So that drawing shows the location of the application site outlined in red, roughly outlined in red, and then you can see where the site relates to North Fambridge. So the access to the site is along this chase here, which is also a public footpath, and you get into the reserve just off Blue House Farm Chase. So the application site extends to around 20 hectares, located to the east of North Fambridge. The entire reserve is 240 hectares, and the majority is within SSSI, Ramsar site, and a special protection area. And these designations are primarily based on the importance of the reserve's populations of wintering and breeding wildfowl and waders. And then you've got the River Crouch, about 150 metres south of the site, which is subject to further wildlife designations. The site is within flood zone 3A, high probability of flooding, but is mostly protected by existing tidal defences. The site at the moment is improved grassland, and there is an existing bund along the northern and eastern peripheries of the site. I've talked about access to the site from Blue House Farm Chase, and there is also a permissive footpath into the reserve from the chase. Site levels within site range from about ½ a metre AOND to the southeast and nearly 2 metres AOD along the northwestern periphery. So that's a difference of just about 1.5 metres. The nearest building to the application site is around 220 metres to the west of the proposed bund, but that one is within the applicant's ownership. The closest third-party properties are residential dwellings, 355 metres northwest along the chase. Right, so this is a bigger version of the location plan, and the blue line there is the extent of the Wildlife Trust Reserve. So, as I said before, it's the application is to create approximately 3 kilometres of foot drains, ditches, and there is also the earth bund, which will go around the periphery of the site, which will extend to just over 2 kilometres in length. The bund would only be half a metre in height, but 4 metres wide.
What?
And there's, sorry?
Sorry, my fault.
You right?
Carry on. Something in the background, I apologise.
Okay, so this plan shows the application site, and the blue lines, vertical lines, are the land drains, and the blue circles are the scrapes, where and the scrapes would be about half a metre in depth. So they'd be under shallow areas, and the bund will go all the way around the outside, and the orange rectangle there is where the sluice would be located. And you've also got the land drain excavations there, indicated with the little black symbol. So the idea of the proposal is to create wetland habitat for breeding and overwintering wildfowl and waders. The aim the project is to create areas of shallow flooding and standing water that will seasonally dry out, creating muddy, wet grassland habitat for a range of birds associated with these habitats. The import of material would not be required to construct the bund, as the earth removed to create the foot drains and the scrapes would be used, and the works would be carried out during October-November to avoid the ground nesting bird breeding season. So these are some cross sections, just sort of illustrative to show the scrapes and the new bunds that would be created, and also the sluice gate. Some photos, typical photos of the area, with the existing bund on the top left there, and with the River Crouch would be to the right. So in conclusion, the application has been assessed, and all the statutory consultees, none of the statutory consultees have raised any objections. So it's considered to be acceptable in principle and would not cause harm to the current appearance of the area, particularly as embankments are not an untypical feature of the area. There'll be no loss of existing vegetation. The immunity of local residents would not be adversely affected, subject to the imposition of conditions as recommended. No objections raised in relation to the impact of works on flood risk or highway safety, and the proposal would actually result in enhancements in relation to nature conservation. And on this basis, it's recommended that the permission is granted, again subject to conditions as set out in your papers. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. The recommendation, as we've just been told, is to approve. I'm actually not going to put that. I'm going to hold my fire until we've had a little bit of a discussion, so that we don't end up potentially with nowhere to go back to. I've got 3 hands up, 2 of the ward members. So Councillor Fleming, Councillor White, would one of you like to go first? Councillor White had her hand up first. So Councillor White?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just so I called this to committee because I had a lot of concerns, obviously, with all the flooding and everything else, and I'm not keen on removing good ground and flooding it out. But actually, I've spoken to a lot of the locals. I have to say thank you to the officer for being very patient with me, but I wanted to get this one right because I didn't want to make a mistake. And actually, after looking into it more thoroughly and speaking to a lot of locals, they haven't objected. So I'm happy to go with the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Catherine if she had consulted with Anglian Water at all.
Through Chairman, I just need to check the report. If they were consulted, it would be referenced under the list of consultees. No, they weren't. They weren't consulted. No.
Okay. Just back through you, Chair. Catherine, I know that they've Anglian Water have been doing a lot of work in the village because of the surface water problems in the village. So I was a little bit surprised not to see anything there from them. But I see that Essex Suds have been consulted and they haven't raised any objections. So are you entirely happy that that has been squared away, the surface water drainage issues in the village?
Well, yes, certainly the SUDS, Essex County Council SUDS have looked at the application, and they did come back with some questions which the applicant has addressed. And I mean, the idea of the scheme is to actually keep more water on site for longer. So it does have the potential for helping with floods. So when that site gets flooded, the water is retained for longer. So certainly in terms of surface water drainage, then there is anticipated to be no issues, and certainly no impact off-site.
Thank you. Councillor Morley.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Fleming brought up some of my concerns, and they've been answered with the building going on in that area and the surface water that could be created. But it appears to be addressed, so that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, no one's spoken against it. I don't think there's anyone else to speak, so at this point I will put the recommendation, which is to approve. Could I have a seconder for that, if anyone is happy to?
Yeah, I'll second that.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, okay, everyone's in there. Councillor Morley, 1. Right, I think we better take a roll call. It's less messy in the end. So, Mrs. Fuller, could you just whiz through the names, please?
Yes, Chairman. So, members, I'll take your names. We are voting for the officer recommendation to approve the proposal subject to the conditions as detailed in section 8 of the report. Starting with Councillor Durham, please.
Agree.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Fleming?
4.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvis?
4.
Thank you. Councillor Keys?
4.
Thank you. Councillor Morley?
4.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Thompson?
4, thank you.
Thank you. And Miss White?
4, thank you.
Thank you. Chairman, that is 7-4. None against and no abstentions.
Thank you very much. Okay, right, items, sorry, just to confirm. So item 5 of the Essex Wildlife Trust application is approved in line with the officer's recommendation and report. So all those conditions in the report will apply. So item 6 is TPO land to the west of Thistley Close, Goldhanger. In a moment, I'll call the officer to present the item, but the usual reminder, members, to, if you wish to speak, use the hands up function. So, Ms. Marden, if you could present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, by way of a verbal members update, the parish reference on page 35 of the agenda is incorrect and should be Goldhanger Parish and not Tolshant Darcy Parish.
Thank you.
Confirmation of TPO 1520, including modifications to remove the pine tree marked as T2 from the schedule of the order and also from the location plan of the order. Here is the original location plan with the oak tree T1 and the pine tree T2. Here is the modified location plan, removing the pine tree. Sorry, here is a copy of the modified order, removing the pine tree from the schedule of the order. Here are some photographs of the oak tree when looking west into Thistley Close. And some further photos when looking west into Thistley Close. In September 2020, the council received information from a member of public that a tree located between 3 and 4 Thistley Close was going to be felled imminently. The council's tree consultant identified 2 trees at the site, an oak tree and a pine tree. Due to the prominent location and the size of the trees, it was considered that the removal of the trees would materially impact on the amenity of the area, and so the resulting TPO was served on the 17th of September 2020. The order was served as an emergency TPO due to the imminent threat to the trees. This provides the council with a period of assessment to be undertaken and includes confirming the accuracy of the plans, species, and a wider consideration of the amenity of the trees from public vantage points. Following a secondary site visit from the council tree consultant, the officer has confirmed that the pine tree has not been annotated correctly on the location plan and sits further to the west behind the large Zealandi tree. The pine tree is not visible within the immediate street scene and is a young tree which holds minimal amenity value. It was considered that it would not be expedient to serve a TPO on the pine tree, and therefore only the oak tree T1 on the plan is worthy of protection due to its size and prominent location. Therefore, the TPO has been modified to remove the T2 pine tree from the order. One objection has been received from the owner of the tree relating to the TPO. The owner of the tree has stated that he never intended to remove the tree, and this was a misunderstanding by a neighbour. The objection from the owner has not been resolved, and whilst the intent of the removal of the tree may have been misconceived originally, the oak tree scores satisfactory for its worthiness of a TPO due to its amenity value alone and is still worthy of protection. Therefore, the question of whether or not to confirm the TPO as modified has been brought before members to decide. Due to its location and size, it is considered that the tree provides significant amenity value to the character and appearance of the area, and the TPO should be confirmed in line with the modifications to prevent inappropriate works being carried out which could harm the amenity value and health of the tree. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right, well, this one I'm just going to put the recommendation, which is that the TPO be confirmed, which it will only apply to the oak tree. Would anyone second that, please?
Seconded, Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Councillor Fleming. Right, I've got Councillor White and Councillor Jarvis. If I may let ladies go first. Councillor White.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Could we go back to the map to see how far away the oak tree is from the house and the neighbouring houses? Because I didn't quite catch that. And the actual tempo scores that it scored, because I don't recall seeing those.
Sorry, I'll just get this up larger for you. So the tempo, it scored 14 out of 25, and it has to be 10 to be worthy of a TPO assessment.
Thank you.
Okay, if I might come back, how many metres from the house is it? Because it's awfully close. Because I know that tempo is supposed to take into account the location and likely future damage it's going to cause to houses. I'm looking particularly at the one that looks like it's to the north.
So, is this the T2 tree? The T2, that's been removed.
They both look very close. I'm just thinking about root damage, that's all.
Right, I'll just show you. I don't know if you can see here, it might be easier. This is the Zealandi tree, which doesn't have any amenity value. Yeah. So it is just this oak tree. This photo might be easier. It's behind a fence, and all of this area here is owned by the owner of 3 Thistleys, I think. I'm not sure on the distances.
How many metres would it be?
I'm not sure, unfortunately.
Because oak roots you can't have within 15 metres of a house. It becomes unmortgageable. And really you want to be 20 metres away. And that's my concern, is for the other house owners, is if it's within 20 metres, they can probably get permission to take it down anyway. And that's why I can't tell from the photo, and I haven't had time to drive out, how far away it is.
Sorry, I'm cutting because I'm trying to Google Earth this and I'm not having a lot of luck.
I should have thought of Google Earth, but I think it's the houses both sides look very close. That was my concern, and obviously I don't know how far away it is.
Actually, since I can't share my screen, I'm just wondering if an officer could possibly get this up on Google Earth so we can have a look at the satellite view.
Through you, Chair, yes, I can try and get it up for you quickly.
That would be wonderful, thank you. In the meantime, would you mind, Councillor White, if I just moved to Councillor Jarvis, because if you've got similar
No,
concerns,
by all means.
Councillor Jarvis, could you just...
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Whilst we're sort of trying to look at that, yeah, I did note the. I mean, obviously, I think we all know oak trees are of a high value, and clearly of all the types of trees that we might be able to put a TPO on, I think oak trees would certainly score highly in sort of my calculation, and obviously this one already has. I think, of course, having a TPO on doesn't stop somebody making some sort of alterations to the tree, if that's what they wish to do, to manage the tree, so to speak. But it just protects the tree, of course, per se, from being cut down. So I think it's, I mean, it's difficult to see the measurements from here where it is. It looks as far away from the house as it can be if it's going to be within the sort of property domain, so to speak. So, but obviously we'll hear back from Sophie in a minute on that. As far as the pine tree is concerned, well, obviously that's not really up for debate. I did wonder though, there is another enormous tree there. Presumably that's the Lalandiae, and presumably nobody's offering to obviously to put a TPO on that, but that seems even bigger. So I'm surprised perhaps they haven't at least commented on that. There was obviously a mix-up probably between that and the pine tree, I suspect. So we might get something else coming to us in the future, perhaps. But I just really wanted to comment on the oak tree particularly. Yes, it would be something I'd be keen to save, unless there's a technical reason that it's too close to the property, which is being explored. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we getting anywhere with Google Earth? I was a bit slow off the mark. I mean, the big thing for me about a TPO is that you can, you can get a tree replaced, which if there isn't a TPO, you can't. So it doesn't prevent work being done. Mr. Lee, did you want to come in about?
I was just going to highlight that Ms. Marsden's raised her hand, so she, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Ms. Martin, off you go. Can you zoom us in a bit on that?
Yeah, no problem. So
okay,
here.
Lovely, thanks. That's the oak tree.
Yes, that's here.
I wonder how old that would be.
Gosh, that only a handful of meters, if that, away from the house. I don't know if this is me thinking. I don't know if that's their tree or not, but that looks awfully close.
It is awfully close. I would have said though that they're not looking to take it down. And on the assumption, and I appreciate you know a lot more about trees in general than I do, Councillor White, but if it could be managed rather than disposed of and still protect the house, that's certainly what I would hope to see. Mr. Lee. And Ms. Martin, if you wanted to tell us anything. Oops. Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee's on. I didn't realise that.
Mr. Lee, you're
Sorry about that. You're probably better for members if I'm on mute, but unfortunately, I'm not allowed to be. As I was just really trying to echo what yourself and Councillor Jarvis has raised about the tree, and the fact that this isn't an application, or not an application. This is a request to put a TPO on the tree to protect it. It doesn't stop works happening in the future. It doesn't mean that there could not be management, and it could even mean removal in the future if it's found to be unacceptable at the time. But as you said, this now allows us to protect that if we impose this or serve this tree preservation order. And I think the fact that there may be some issues in the future that aren't necessarily evidence before us now or aren't really for discussion now isn't a reason per se to not serve the TPO. That would be for something for consideration to if and when it was sought to be removed, and we can then replace it, protect it if necessary. And I just think members need to consider is, does that tree that Ms Marsden's shown have amenity value or not to the character of the area. And I would advise as a oak tree of a certain number of years that it really does. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Durham, but just as the board member, I'll just pop in that Goldhanger Parish Council are extremely keen on their trees in their village, in their parish, and are hoping very much that we'll keep it. And that tree will stay. Councillor Durham.
Yeah, thank you. I think, looking at it, it's clearly of aesthetic merit because it's on view at the bottom of that road. So it's quite a landmark. In the great scheme of oak trees, it's actually quite a young tree by the look of it. In 200 or 300 years' time, it could be a different ball game, quite clearly. But I think at the moment there is sufficient merit to warrant a TPO. And as we've already established, and we know that if at some date in the future it becomes a problem, then it can be revisited. But I think that it deserves this protection at the moment, and we'll see what happens. It would be because very clear on the photograph down the road. It's apart from that rotten leylandii which needs tipping over, that oak tree would would be a great help.
Thank you. Councillor White, your hand is up. Is that a legacy hand, or would you like to come back?
It's a legacy hand, but I just say I have issues with how close to the house it is. So for me, I can't agree with the recommendation, but that's up to them to decide.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, I put the recommendation because, like most planning applications, this is something we either agree or we don't. So given that the recommendation is to keep the TPO, which will apply to the oak tree only, and that was seconded, wasn't it? I can remind myself. Yes. So can we have a roll call for the vote, please, Mrs. Fuller?
Yes, Chairman. So we're voting to confirm the TPO with the modifications as per the report. Members, I'll take your name. Please, can you indicate whether you are for, against or abstaining? Councillor Durham, please.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Fleming?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvis?
For. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keys?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Morley?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Thompson?
For.
Thank you. And Councillor Miss White?
Against.
Thank you. Chairman, that is 6 for, 1 against and no abstentions.
Thank you. So just to confirm, that TPO is confirmed. Sorry about that. According to the officer's recommendation. Item 7. Any other items of business the chairman of the committee decides are urgent? You'll be delighted to hear there are none. 8. Item 8. The closure of the meeting. Members, thank you for your contributions. I now draw the meeting to a close with thanks to all of you members, to all officers, whether background or committee. I'll close the meeting at 18:34. That is pretty good, members. Thank you very much.
Well done. Good night.
Well done.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, members.
Good night, everyone. I have to say this bit for completeness, as the meeting is now